talking World Cup here, guys. I want to see some excitement, okay? That's what I'm saying. We're only about 41 days out from the start of the World Cup. I've been talking about it nonstop for the last year. I can't imagine how you guys feel. Amy, about 41 days out, how are you feeling? Is everything done? Or how much can you really cram into that amount of time?
No, I mean, I think the hard work has been done. This has been a project that a lot of us have been working on going back to 2017. So it's been a long runway. Alex and I were actually talking about it this morning. We're ready for June 11th to get here. There's some work to do. There's some fields going in right now. There's some grass that's getting grown. But, really the hard work, the planning that's gone into it, the work that the cities have done, the work that FIFA's done, have gotten us to a really good point. And I think we're just excited to get there.
Alex, I've been seeing some signage around. I start seeing the U.S. soccer gear on sale. I'm seeing, the World Cup signage in bars and restaurants. Is there going to be a moment when we walk outside and we're like, oh my God, the World Cup's here. It's happening right now.
I think you're already starting to feel it, right? You're starting to see cities starting to, dress up kind of their areas, and you're starting to see signage already going up on the stadiums. And I think everyone is starting to realize that we are, 40 days away from the start of the World Cup. We're already planning a number of activations, and we just announced our kind of 5-borough fan festival in New York City, free for all attendees. So I think we announced our Jersey fan hub in New Jersey. So you're starting to, I think, see all the announcements and everything starting to happen. And I think over the next 2-3 weeks, you're going to really start to see all these cities and areas really dressing up, and you're going to start to have everyone feeling the World Cup in a way that they haven't before.
Is that what's left for you to do? It's building out the Fan Fest, or what else are you doing in this amount of time?
I think right now it's, one, making sure everyone truly knows that the World Cup is 40 days away and getting the excitement and energy ready for everybody. I think it's fine-tuning some of the details. And then I think announcing everything that we have left. So I know for our region, we've got a number of really exciting announcements that are going to be coming out over the next 2-3 weeks as we're leading up, trying to build suspense and momentum for the World Cup. And I think try to put on a show that is worthy of our region. I think we really look at having a big responsibility being New York, New Jersey, and people having an expectation of coming to our area and expecting a certain level of showtime. And so I think for us, we're trying to make sure that we're putting the finishing touches and all of the final details on what that looks like, and then also adding as more exciting things kind of start to pop up. You're starting to see brands and everyone really starting to pay attention now and trying to say, oh, how can I get in before it's too late?
Feels late.
It's never too late. Never too late.
Amy, we had the Club World Cup in the U.S. last year. We're having the World Cup this year. The Olympics are around the corner. Why is the U.S. the right place to host all of these major international tournaments?
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. The Club World Cup really kicked off a decade of sports in the United States. Between the World Cup this year, you've got LA Olympics, you've got likely 2 Rugby World Cups, a Winter Olympics, a Women's World Cup most likely in 2031.
You heard it here. I'm excited for that
Technicalities. But this is the moment. So this is the moment for the United States to really set an example of what they can do on the large scale. I mean, you see it every day, day in and day out with sports leagues and teams, but really on the international side. So the U.S. hasn't hosted a World Cup since 1994, so 30 years. 30 years is way too long to wait to show off the United States. So the Club World Cup was a great start to that. It was a brand new tournament. We debuted something completely new in a very, very short runway. And it gained momentum as the tournament went on and ended up being a really great tournament. I think the World Cup has the opportunity to set that benchmark for major sporting events globally, as well as here in the United States, in Mexico and Canada. You've got an opportunity to meld what we do well in North America, entertainment, business, technology, and bring the world's largest sporting event to that. You really couldn't ask for anything bigger.
Alex, when we talked before, you had mentioned that New York has to host these sorts of things in order to stay the epicenter of the world. But Also, when you look at what we've hosted in the last few years, we don't host many sporting events. And it's hard to say New York's not a sports town when the Knicks are in the playoffs, right? But why do you think right now is the right time to host? What do you think it's going to do for the city of New York hosting, the final of as well as the other games and the state of New Jersey, I should say, because that's where the game is.
Yeah, so I think, how do we make our region continue to be the epicenter for sports, entertainment, and tourism? And I think that's one of the legacy items that we're hoping to have for this World Cup. And it's for the region, but it's also for the country, as Amy explained. When I was in the Commerce Department, we had a stat that was 10 to 15% of all tourists coming to the U.S. were now putting sporting events on their agendas. So sports, live entertainment, live events are becoming a significant tourism draw for countries. And what's then starting to happen is there's becoming more competition now. It used to be that you could only go to 5 or 6 cities, right? There was only so many cities or countries that had a stadium big enough or an arena big enough or anything like that. Now they're everywhere. And the competition to bring these prestigious events that not only produce, for us it's going to be close to, a little over $3 billion of economic impact, but show who you are and put you on a level that you can't have if you're not hosting these type of events. And that's part of, I think, the expectation and responsibility of being a New York, New Jersey is saying, hey, not only are we going to have the World Cup, but we're going to have the final. And we're going to have the biggest sporting event that the world has ever seen, and we're going to put it on in a way that only New York, New Jersey can. And so I think, as Amy said, this is kicking off a decade of sports. For us, we want to be able to show not only can we do the Club World Cup final and a World Cup final, but an Olympics needs to come here. Winter Olympics needs to come here. If you're, Taylor Swift needs to do another show here. I think
that's the big economy booster right there.
That's probably, it's like World Cup, Olympics, Taylor Swift. But those are, I think, the things that we're trying to show that if you're trying to have the biggest stars on the biggest stage in the capital of the world, you want to do it in New York, New Jersey, and that's where you're going to get the biggest event that you could possibly put on.
Yeah, absolutely. Amy, when we're talking about the biggest event possible, this is the biggest, World Cup ever. It's the biggest sporting event of all time, 104 matches, 16 host cities, 3 countries. Obviously, it was going to be hard, but has it proved to be harder than you could have imagined?
No, I don't think it's been harder than we imagined. I think the dynamics continue to shift and change. I think early on we spent a lot of time educating people on what the World Cup was. We didn't necessarily need to do that in Mexico. We needed to do that a little bit more in the U.S. and Canada. As time's gone on, those conversations have changed. I think, being in 3 countries, by virtue of that, we've got different dynamics than you might if you're hosting, a Super Bowl in one city. We're talking about cross-border relations. We're talking geopolitical situations that continue to change overnight in the world. You add on to that the way 11 cities in the U.S. work is almost like 11 countries in and of itself. I mean, we're sitting in Miami. Miami is, a very different city than Kansas City and very different than Los Angeles. So how do you have a World Cup that looks like one World Cup? But we also have the opportunity to make sure that each of those 3 countries and each of those 16 cities get a chance to show off, because this is the world's largest stage. I mean, we had 5 billion people interact with the World Cup in 2022. That number is incredible. That's more than half of the world's population. You had, 1.5 billion people watch the finals, which is wild. So it is literally the eyes of the world. And how do we make sure that, we put our best foot forward collectively as FIFA, collectively as the host cities and in the host countries?
And for the host cities, I know you guys talk a lot, but is it communication just on, strategy? Is it, what are you guys doing that we can help each other? Or is it just, well, we're doing this and that's it? No,
I think it's a lot of support and idea kind of sharing, right? Like every host city is different, right? There's no apples to apple comparison with any of them. As Amy said, it's 11 host cities. I would say 13 host countries, because we're a number of different regions just in ours alone. But I think every time, I'm able to talk to, and I was saying this earlier today, the experience someone has in Philadelphia is going to affect their experience in New York. The experience that someone has in New York is going to affect their experience in LA. And what makes, again, the World Cup so unique is you're going to come to New York, you're then going to go to Philadelphia, you then might go to Kansas City, LA, San Francisco, right? Like you're going to be in more than one host city probably for your World Cup stay. And so how do we make sure that we're all working as one, right? We're not in competition. We're not fighting for different events. We're not fighting even for different fans. We're expecting all of our games to sell out anyway. I think what we're trying to do is provide an experience that makes all the fans feel that they had an incredible time. And I think ensuring that they leave here finding Amy and saying, do not make us wait another 30 years before the World Cup is back in the United States. And so I think with all of the host cities, it's whether it's our, weekly calls or, group text chains, it's, oh, hey, I saw that you were doing this, this sponsorship thing. How did you do that? Where did that idea come from? And then being able to kind of pitch that, oh, what did you put in that package? Your fan experiences, right? Oh, how did you think about that? What led you to that decision? So it's a lot of sharing, and then hoping that one of those ideas kind of sparks something that can make ours better. The other thing I've always told my team is go visit other events. So we try to make sure that our staff goes to football games, other soccer games, basketball, like whatever, concerts, right, and visit other stadiums. See what it's like to be there. We sent our security team to the NBA All-Star Game to see what they do. Mm-hmm. Maybe you get an idea, because while we're in the sports business, we are also in the event business, and the only way you can know how to put on what is probably going to be the most unique event that we've all put on is to go to other events. My wife hates that I call that work, but it is technically work.
We're all working in Miami right now. Okay?
Going to the Super Bowl is work, unfortunately.
Alex, you had talked about, how every host city is different and you're all, talking, but everyone's handling different situations, uniquely. When we're talking about transportation, a lot's been said about the way New York and New Jersey has been handling that, and Boston and these other places that have really high transportation prices. $150 train ticket to get to MetLife. Can you give us a little bit clarity on how that's decided and why?
Yeah, I think anytime you're talking about transportation or anything kind of happening for an event, there are a lot of factors that go into it. And, I empathize with kind of where, the governor of New Jersey, had to land. I think she said, very specifically, this is not something that can fall on the taxpayers. And look, for me, I am just in charge of the host committee and trying to put on the World Cup. The governor of New Jersey, governor of New York, mayor of New York has a million different things and a million different calculations and factors that they have to come into any decision that they make. And so I think what we're trying to do, what the governor of New Jersey, New York, and mayor of New York, I think what all of us want is to make sure that we are providing a fan experience that, whether you're inside or outside the stadium, you feel good about and you feel excited about. And it's why I think, you've also seen the governor of New Jersey say, hey, I'm going to put up, $5 million in a grant program to stand up watch parties all across the state so fans are able to go experience all that New Jersey has to offer, so that the state of New Jersey can get the economic impact that FIFA and all of us are promising. You saw the mayor of New York similarly announce we announced all of our five borough fan fests that are going to be free to fans. So I think what makes the World Cup so unique is not just what happens on the pitch. It's also what happens off the pitch. And the one thing FIFA has been, the one thing they just hammer to me all the time is the experience in the stadium. You need to provide that same kind of experience outside the stadium, that same fun. And if anyone who can't come in needs to be able to know that the World Cup was still able to come to them and they were still able to participate. And, the World Cup, when we look at the millions of people we're expecting, a lot of those people probably are coming not to actually go inside the stadium. They're coming for the fan experiences and to be a part of the World Cup experience. And so I think for us, what we want to do is be able to say, look, if you feel like going to the game is out of reach, which it might be for some fans, and I get that, here are all the other free and affordable and accessible experiences that, from my vantage point, are going to be just as good, right? Rockefeller Center is one of the most iconic spaces in the world, and having a fan village there, free watch party to go and be a part of, is, I think, going to be one of the most memorable images of the World Cup. The U.S. Tennis Center, Sports Illustrated Stadium, these are all going to be iconic spaces to watch games, be a part of it. And, I think when you actually see a lot of the images from past World Cups, it is from these fan fests. It is from these out-of-stadium experiences because there's a lot of energy and excitement that goes to it. And so we want to make sure that we understand, look, if the game can feel out of reach, how do we make sure that the experiences outside the stadium are going to feel just as impactful and have just as much energy and make you feel just as excited about being part of the experience.
Those are some of the best videos, is watching the fan fest and all of the beer and the water goes everywhere. Amy, as you had spoken about the geopolitical situation and all the different countries and working with that, and the visa situation in every country is very different. We just recently saw that Iran was on their way to the FIFA conference, got turned away because of the situation with the visas. So how do you make sure something like that doesn't happen when they come for the tournament? Or, how do all the different visa situations work, and how can you make sure that doesn't happen when people come over for the tournament?
Yeah, sure. I mean, just to clarify, they were going into Canada, not the United States.
Yes.
This is something we've been working on from day one. So we've got a great close working relationship with the U.S. government, with the State Department. We obviously had a little bit of a trial run last year with Club World Cup. We debuted the FIFA Pass, which was an opportunity for fans that were in countries where visa wait times were longer than the time where they bought their ticket to the World Cup to have a fast pass, pun intended, to get a visa. Obviously, still need to qualify for a visa. We've been working with State Department on identifying locations for teams and fans to go if their embassy is closed, given the situation going on in the Middle East. We've been working on team visas, staff visas, media visas, every type of visa under the sun for the last few years. And I would say, it's moving. It will never be, not everyone will ever be happy. You still need to qualify for a visa. The U.S. government still needs to grant you a visa, but we are making sure as FIFA that we provide every opportunity for individuals to apply, and if they are eligible, to make sure that they have the opportunity to get their visa.
Obviously, we spoke about, those things that a lot of people are talking about, these days. But Amy, do you think that sometimes leading up to this event that people get lost in the headlines and they kind of forget what the tournament is supposed to really be for?
We are living that. Absolutely. I mean, we talked about it a little bit this morning. Alex called it silly season. I think that's very accurate. It's that time where everyone's now paying attention, which is awesome and great, but we're still 41 days away from the first ball being kicked. So there's a lot of space to fill. There's a lot of headlines to write. And unfortunately, we don't have the game. We don't have the team side of it to really talk about. Rosters will come out in the next couple weeks. Then that kind of starts to transition into the actual football, which is why we're all here. We're here for the game. But in this space, we get it. We understand. We know. There's conversations about transit prices. There's conversations about fan fest. There's conversations about preparedness. We know that. We live it. We feel comfortable with where we are. We feel comfortable with the next 41 days.
Alex, as we wrap up here, do you think, no matter what's been said so far, everything is just going to be settled by the time the first ball's kicked?
Better be. Yes. I mean, I think whenever anyone who's ever planned an event like this, it can always feel like things are happening at the last minute, but they're not. These are years of planning, and then everyone just starts to pay attention. And that's when then just a flurry of articles start to come out, and it feels like everything's just happening right now. At the end of the day, though, we've been planning this. I've been on for about a year and a half. It's been Amy's been doing this for 4 or 5 plus years. This is a long time of planning. I have definitely, people have said, "Oh, do you want more time?" I've always said I want less time. Like, I want the games to happen. We want to be able to right now give the fans what they're excited about. When we owned the Bucks, the worst time was always the 4 to 6 weeks before the season started. You always it's when there's the most anticipation, but also as I call it, the silly season. There's just most appetite for that. And so, for us on June 13th, we're going to be ready. We are very excited for the games and especially for our slate of group stage games that we have. The region is really excited. You start to talk to people on the ground and everyone, people are starting to get excited about the fact that, hey, the World Cup's going to be here, the world's going to be here. People are going to be paying attention to the region in a way that hasn't happened before. Amy mentioned, but just to put those numbers into perspective, the last World Cup final was viewed by the same amount of people as the last 13 Super Bowls combined. This
As
is,
you said it.
Yeah, this is a big deal. This isn't just, this isn't any other, football match. This is it. This happens once every 4 years, and to have it here for the first time in 30 years is also going to just make it that much bigger. There's no bigger media market than the United States, no bigger media market than New York, New Jersey. You've got this is kind of the biggest, I think, area of untapped potential for football. So June 13th, we're going to be ready. We're excited to welcome the world here and to be able to show them, in my opinion, how the United States does the World Cup.
That's right. All right. We're really excited for it. Go USA. Amy, Alex, thanks so much.
Thank you.